I remember the exact sound my boots made on the driveway, thick, rubber soles grinding over loose gravel. My feet were tired from a 12-hour shift at the hospital. The July heat still lingered in the concrete, rising in waves around me. As I climbed the porch steps of my parents' house, only I didn't make it to the front door. I stopped, cold at the edge of the lawn. My clothes were scattered across the grass shirts, twisted like wrung-out towels. Pants half buried in the hedges, and my nursing scrubs laid out on the sidewalk like some ritual sacrifice. My books, my journals, my framed photos, all spewed across the yard like garbage. My suitcase was ripped open at the seams, the zipper torn halfway off. Even the teddy bear I'd had since I was 5 lay in the gutter, one ear missing. For a second, I thought it was a mistake, that someone had robbed the house. Or maybe my parents were cleaning out the garage and got confused. I held on to that hope for a heartbeat too long, till I saw the note taped to the front door, flapping lazily in the breeze like a flag of surrender. You are no longer welcome here. Don't come back. Mom and Dad, no explanation. Number. Warning, just banishment. My breath caught, not in a dramatic gasp, but in a quiet, sinking kind of stillness. Like I'd stepped into a version of my life that had been tampered with. A nightmare that looked too much like reality. I stood frozen for a while. The neighbor's dog barked. A car passed. Still I didn't move, because I couldn't yet understand what I had done so wrong to deserve being erased. Eventually, I knelt down and began to gather my things. The sun had nearly disappeared when I finally got everything packed into the trunk of my rusting Honda Civic. I didn't cry. Not then. I didn't scream or throw a tantrum, just sat in the driver's seat, gripping the steering wheel like it might dissolve if I let go. Then I drove nowhere at first. Just away. I ended up in the parking lot of a closed gas station. Sitting in the dark with the engine off, a cold bottle of water balanced between my thighs. My phone buzzed once. A text from my sister Grace. You should have known this would happen. You brought it on yourself. That was all she wrote. Grace, the golden child. Grace, who had never worked a day in her life and still had my parents wrapped around her perfectly manicured finger. Grace, who once left me at a rest stop for hours from home because I talked too much. And now she was texting me like I deserved this, but I didn't. I knew I didn't. Sure, I wasn't perfect. I'd dropped out of college once, then gone back. I chose to study nursing instead of something real like law, like Grace. I moved back in to save money while working night shifts. I wasn't flashy or impressive or married to a politician's son like her, but I was good. I worked hard. I paid rent. I helped clean. I showed up for family dinners even when my father barely looked at me and my mother called my life a phase. They didn't love me less, though at least I thought they didn't. I found a cheap motel that night. It's one of those places with peeling wallpaper and a vending machine that only took quarters. The air conditioning rattled like a dying animal. I didn't care. Lying on the bed, I replayed every conversation I'd had with them over the past week. Every text. Every silence. What had I missed? And then I remembered the envelope. 3 days earlier, I had gotten a letter in the mail from Grandma Rose's attorney. She'd passed away in February, and the estate was finally settled. I hadn't told anyone because I hadn't opened it. Yet, not really. Just glanced at the first page and saw that she'd left something to me. Something significant. I thought maybe it was jewelry. Perhaps a savings bond. Grandma and I were close. She'd always said I was the only one who listened when she talked about the past. About her regrets and dreams. So the next morning I opened the letter fully, my hands shaking. Grandma had left me her house, not Grace. Not Mom or Dad. Me, she left a note inside too, written in her wobbly cursive. For the one who never asked for anything but deserved everything. I didn't cry until I read that line. I made the mistake of mentioning the inheritance at dinner. The next day, it slipped out half proud, half word, like I didn't know how to own good news anymore. Grace went silent. My mother's face tightened, and my father stared at me like I'd just stolen something from him. Now it made sense. They hadn't thrown me out because of something I'd done wrong. They'd thrown me out because I finally had something they couldn't control. 3 weeks passed. I couch surfed. I worked every available shift, kept quiet, but inside me, something dark was blooming, something hot and sharp that pulsed in my chest like a second heartbeat. It wasn't just the betrayal. It was the silence. They had turned me into a stranger. Overnight, and Grace She'd helped them do it. I remembered how she'd always resented how close I was to Grandma. She called her old-fashioned and senile, mocked her stories, refused to visit unless there were cameras or extended family. Grace, with her pearl smiles and expensive perfume, didn't care about Grandma, but now she wanted what Grandma left behind. Of course she did. I could feel it in my bones. Grace had found out about the will, and she wanted the house. Backed her like they always did, and the easiest way to take it? Erase me. I visited the house a week later, Grandma's house. It stood quiet and solemn at the edge of a sleepy cul-de-sac, a weathered Victorian with chipped blue paint and a porch. Swing that still creaked in the wind. I unlocked the door with shaking fingers. The air inside smelled like lavender and old books. No one had touched it, yet it was mine. Legally, emotionally, spiritually. I walked through each room, touching the things she left behind: crocheted blankets, porcelain teacups, stacks of handwritten letters tied in faded ribbon. In the upstairs closet, I found a shoebox labeled for her. Inside were photographs of me, drawings I'd made in school, notes I'd written as a child. Little trinkets and receipts she'd kept, each one proof that I had always belonged to someone, even if my parents refused to see it. And that's when I stopped crying. That's when I started planning. They thought they'd broken me. But all they'd done was set me free. 2 weeks later, I returned to my parents' house, this time with a purpose. I knocked on the door with a steady hand. My mother answered, her mouth falling open the second she saw me. "I need to speak to Grace," I said calmly. "She's not here," my mother snapped. But her eyes darted behind her like she was lying. "I won't come in. I won't yell. I just want to talk," she hesitated, then opened the door wider. Grace sat on the living room couch, dressed in an elegant blazer, flipping through legal papers. "You look tired," she said without looking up. I ignored her bait. "You went after Grandma's will, didn't you?" She smiled faintly. "You're not equipped to handle an estate like that, you know." "You mean my estate?" I said, voice tightening. "The one she gave to me. You don't understand the pressure, the expectations people like us live under. You don't know what to do with a house like that." "You mean people like you?" I said, "the ones who never earned anything, just manipulated and smiled their way into getting it?" Her smile thinned. "You think this is revenge?" "It's not. It's correction." I laughed. It surprised both of us. "No, Grace, this is revenge." I had already contacted the estate lawyer, already filed paperwork to transfer the deed fully into my name, already set up security cameras and changed the locks. I had also found out Grace had forged my name in an attempt to sell the house. Felony. I had the documents in my bag. I pulled them out and set them on the coffee table between us, her face drained of color. "This isn't going away," I said softly. "You tried to erase me, but you didn't bury a body. You buried a seed." I turned to leave, and that's when my father entered the room. He looked at me like I was a ghost, but I wasn't a ghost. I was a storm. My father didn't speak at first, just stared, like he couldn't believe I still existed, like he'd expected me to fade quietly into the background. So many things he'd swept aside over the years, but I didn't disappear. I stood taller. I met his gaze and held it, unflinching. "I see you've come to stir trouble," he said, voice cold, gravelly with age. "No," I replied. "Trouble came when you sided with lies." Grace stood now too, her expression hardening. With each breath, "This is childish," she snapped. "We are a family. You're trying to drag us through the mud because you think a dead woman loved you more than the rest of us." "I know she did," I said evenly. "And you hated her for it. She saw you clearly." Grace stepped forward, but my father blocked her with a hand. "I won't let you throw this family into a courtroom circus," he said. "That house could be used to help all of us, not just you." I laughed, a bitter, quiet sound. Help? You mean control? You always meant to control me. Even now. But the difference is now I see it. You ungrateful little don't, I said sharply. Not this time. My voice stopped the room. Even my mother, who had crept halfway back into the hallway, paused. I gave up everything too. Stay close to you, I said. To help. To be part of this family, even when you made me feel like I wasn't. I swallowed your disappointment, your silence, your constant comparisons. And I still showed up. I held up the forged documents, and this is what I get. Grace's eyes flicked to the pages. You can't prove anything. You don't have the resources. I have everything I need, I said, and I'm not. Bluffing? You forged a legal document. That's a crime, Grace. And if you want me to keep it quiet, you're going to walk away.
Right now.
She opened her mouth to argue. I cut her off. And if you don't file criminal charges tomorrow, I will destroy your spotless reputation. You'll lose your job, your standing, your precious image. Try me. A long silence stretched. Then, my father, red-faced, stormed toward me. You would burn your own sister to the ground over some old house? I didn't flinch. No, I said, you already did. I'm just lighting the match you left behind. By the time I stepped outside, the sky had turned silver and purple with rain clouds. The wind caught my hair as I walked, and thunder grumbled faintly in the distance. The world had shifted. Inside me, something had snapped and then settled like a bone long broken, finally pushed back into place. I drove straight to Grandma's house, my house, and for the first time in months, I slept with peace in my chest and a locked door behind me. The following days were quiet but tense. I received a single email from Grace, short and venomous. You win. Enjoy your dusty old shrine. I didn't reply. I didn't need to, because I had more important things to do now. Grandma's house had good bones, but it needed work, and I had time. With some savings and a few favors from hospital colleagues, I started fixing it up, one room at a time. I repainted the kitchen in soft yellows, scrubbed the floors until the wood gleamed again. I filled the rooms with music. In light, each drawer I opened revealed some hidden piece of history letters. Photos, pressed flowers, old recipes scrawled in the margins of cookbooks. I kept them all, and every evening. I sat in the backyard with a cup of tea and the porch light glowing like a beacon, alone, but not lonely. One Saturday morning, as I was sorting books in the study, I found something unexpected. A locked drawer. In Grandma's old writing desk, I tried every key I could find. Nothing fit. Curious. I used a flathead screwdriver and popped it open. Inside were three things. A faded envelope labeled for the right moment. A thick leather journal with my grandmother's name embossed in gold. A flash drive. I opened the envelope first. If you're reading this, then something has happened. Something I feared might. I knew they would turn on you. They turned on. Me too, once. But listen, you were always stronger than they ever wanted to admit. Don't let them twist what's yours. If the time comes, use the drive. I set the letter down, my fingers trembling. Then I plugged the flash drive into my laptop. It held videos. Dozens of them, recordings from a hidden camera. I recognized the living room, Grandma's living room. I saw dates in the corner. Timestamps from months before she died. The audio was clear. To clear. Grace, my mother, my father, talking, scheming. He's pushing for Grace to get power of attorney, my mother whispered. She agreed to it, Grace replied. She's old. She forgets things. We'll make it look like it's for her own good. What about her will? My father asked. Grace paused. We rewrite it. They laughed. I stopped the video, bile rising in my throat. They tried to manipulate. Her maybe even succeeded for a while. But Grandma must have known. She must have felt it happening around her, and instead of fighting it publicly, she planned for this. She knew they would come for me too. So she recorded everything. I uploaded the files to a secure cloud. Then I called a lawyer. I didn't want to ruin them. Not at first, but when I saw the footage, heard the contempt in their voices. The way they spoke about Grandma like she was nothing more than a hurdle in their way, ... that changed everything. They didn't deserve. They didn't deserve peace. They deserved truth. The lawyer helped me draft the official complaint. Fraud, forgery, elder abuse. We had evidence. Clear, unedited, damning. The first letter was sent to Grace's law firm, the second to the local bar association, the third to a journalist. Grandma once knew someone who owed her a favor, then I waited. The storm came fast. Headlines, scandal. A forced leave of absence. Then, termination. Grace's name was suddenly everywhere, not for her accomplishments, but for the investigation. My parents issued a public statement denying involvement. But the videos told the truth, and the court of public opinion didn't wait. They were shunned, and I didn't gloat. I didn't reach out. I simply moved on. A month later, I hosted a small gathering at the house. Just a few friends from the hospital, a neighbor or two, and Mrs. Holloway from next door, who used to sit with Grandma every Sunday. We lit candles, played music, shared stories. At one point, someone asked, "Do you ever talk to your family anymore?" I thought about it. Then I said no, and I think that's the healthiest thing I've ever done. It's strange, the things we grow around, how we carry pain like it's stitched into our skin, until one day we realize we can tear the seams open and let it bleed out. That house, the one they tried to steal from me, became my sanctuary. Not just because it was mine, but because it was proof that love, even in its quietest form, fights back. Grandma fought for me, in her own way, and now I was finally doing the same. For myself. Last week I planted a magnolia tree in the front yard. It was Grandma's favorite flower. She always said they were resilient, stubborn even. They bloom even after the hardest winters. She'd told me once, her hand warm in mine. I understand what she meant now, because I bloomed too,